Hello lads, Shadow Labyrinth is not a game for everyone. I'm mentioning this right at the top because the rest of my video I'm going to be describing the things that sound obtuse and frustrating as if they are feats of genius game design. Both things can be true. After all, the sci-fi or Metroidvania remaining of a Pac-Man, if nothing else, contains multitudes. So, this game was developed and published by Bandai Namco Studios, right? We like those guys. Yeah, we do. We do like those guys. Spinning off from the secret level short Pac-Man circle, or vice versa, depending on which interviews you believe, Shadow Labyrinth is OD to Namco arcade classics and a surprisingly meaty new entry in the Bandai Namco structure UGSF, shared universe presented in the unforgiving and the times hostile format that defined the games of the Namco era. Indeed, this one is for the Seikos. So, if you thought Circle was pretty high concept for a Pac-Man story, you have no idea what's waiting you in the Shadows Labyrinth. The short serves as a prequel to the game, which begins with the Pac-Sharp Puck awakening and a new swordsman in the abandoned prison and setting off across the wasteland on a mission to ascend the Black Tower for the reasons. It probably won't surprise you that fighting your way to the tower is just as grueling as it looks like in the short. It will probably surprise you to learn that getting to the tower, climbing to the top, and completing Puck's secret mission is merely the intro to a grand sci-fi epic, and it connects to nearly 50 years of Bandai Namco games. As the shorts reveal, Puck is more than it seems at first and is too in the labyrinth. The little title screen of my video reveals that Shadow Labyrinth is in Isekai, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. You don't need to know the UGS app lore to play Shadow of Labyrinth. I certainly don't. I didn't have any idea or a hard time following the plot and the gun to my head. I really couldn't tell you what exactly happened. That may sound like a flaw of the storytelling, but having only a vague sense of what's going on persistently in a multi-millennia long galactic war actually serves to strengthen your connection to the silent protagonist as the point of view character. It was easy to imagine they're just lost as I was. Plus the feeling lost in the world, that's why too big for you is the core theme to the genre. For the first time of 6 hours, I thought Shadow Labyrinth was a pretty linear experience. Modern Metroidvania titles have a tendency to lead players by the hand throughout their interconnected biomes on a winding path, giving the impression of dragging you deep into the unknown territory without ever having the guts to cut the leash and let the players roam freely. Fantastic games like Metroid Dread and Prince of Persia: The Last Crown are a lot more off the rails than their predecessors used to be, and for quite a long time I thought Shadow of Labyrinth was the same. That was when I until the ninth zone and hit a dead end. I retraced my steps for a bit as I tried down many times before, but there were no more paths forward. Suddenly I found myself starting at the map of the first time, a single path craved throughout the mine massive biomes, realizing that I need to explore all of them to figure out where I need to go next. The moment you hit your first dead end in the Shadow of Labyrinth is when the game truly begins. And when you first start to realize how little it tries to help you find your way, there are no quest markers and no hint system. There's a vendor that sells clues, but the clues are vague and only direct you toward optional upgrades. Well, anyway, the map, you only guide that you will spend hours studying every pixel of it as a nightmare to read. I spent hours upon hours traveling back and forth along the same routes, looking for the next place to go, while the enemies, including the bosses, respawn in my path. Yes, the Shadow Labyrinth makes you refight bosses if you aren't careful enough to avoid them. After a while, it started to feel like a game hated me. One night I played for 5 hours and made almost no progress. I lost count of how many times I found a new path full of vicious enemies and brutal platforming challenges just to discover the whole thing just leads me back to somewhere I already been or found a path and followed it only to discover another locked door, stopping me from making the real progress. The moment you lose all hope is actually when Shadow Labyrinth truly begins. There are very few transversal items that you need to fully explore the labyrinth, but there is a tremendous amount of area to explore to find them. Once you have the air dash and the grapple hook, you can access half of the zones in the entire game. Then you will need to find the double jump and access to the other half. There are 18 zones and many of them have 2 layers, which means a whole lot of wandering, a whole lot of dead ends, and a whole lot of boss fights that seemingly don't get you any closer to the end. But along the way, you are getting stronger, buying the upgrades, unlocking the new Pac abilities, finding health and energy resources in tanks consuming foes to collect their crafting materials, or just or important as finding the double jump. Even when you're aimlessly wandering and completely lost, you're getting stronger, you're training. Well, once again, you don't find a lot of modern combat sensibilities here. Gaia, you know, summonable mech suit, or just glorified Kratos style range mode. This is combat made for people who like Mega Man boss fights, where the patience is the most valuable skill. All of the hostile aspects of the Shadow of Labyrinth, the combat is what I enjoyed the least, especially with some many repeated bosses, but I can still appreciate that is the consistent with all of the game, other themes and the goals. Throughout the references went over my head and the story was blur, I enjoy getting lost and immersed in the shadow of the labyrinth. Well, maybe enjoyed isn't the right word, but it certainly made an impact on me. I'm old enough to have a grown-up, unforgiving game, and I can appreciate a project that goes against the grain and risk alienating more the audiences. Even combining as one genre appreciator, I felt alienated by the shadow of the labyrinth. This is an example of the ball game design in market that becomes more and more risk averse by the second, and throughout I hated it at times, I love it and I respect the admiration for Namco video game history that went into it. So definitely, you guys should check it. The links will be in the description. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and just follow me on the other social media. Peace!